Welcome to Sipping Success, the ultimate podcast for all things beverage and alcohol. We are here to quench your thirst for insights, analysis, and a splash of entertainment. Get ready to dive into the world of beverages with us. From the latest trends to in-depth discussions with industry leaders, we've got it all covered. Whether you're a connoisseur or a curious sipper, Sipping Success is your go-to guide. Join us as we uncork knowledge, raise a glass to innovation, and help you elevate your brand to new heights. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and let's sip success together. Tune in to Sipping Success and drink in the wisdom. Cheers. This podcast is brought to you by Mushroom Media, the go-to digital media agency for all things marketing. From crafting captivating campaigns to decoding social media sorcery, Mushroom Media is here to empower your brand and help you scale. So whether you're brewing, distilling, or concocting the next big thing, Mushroom Media has a solution for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sipping Success. I'm your host, Casey Haakinson. And this week, we're very excited to have Brandon Crockett join us. He's a senior sales executive at AccelPay, and he's got a lot of interesting experience within alcohol, with over a decade of experience in the alcohol industry, and is specialized focused on e-commerce and digital marketing for the past 4 years. Brandon has developed a deep understanding of the unique challenges and opportunities within the alcohol market. He leverages a comprehensive background in brand development and online marketing strategies to drive growth and innovation for alcohol brands in the digital space. Passionate about blending marketing techniques with the latest digital trends, Brandon has successfully enhanced online presence and sales for numerous alcohol brands, making a significant impact here in the industry. And we're very excited to get into the specifics of all that. And I know a lot of our listeners will be interested in as well. We have a lot of hospitality industry professional folks that listen to us. So Brandon, welcome. And if I'm not mistaken, you're joining us from Charleston, South Carolina. Is that right?
Sure am. Yeah, it's starting to turn summer over here in Charleston. So
All right.
Loving it over here. Really excited to jump in and dig into the e-commerce space. I know it's kind of a foreign concept for a lot of these brands that haven't dug in. So it's a great opportunity to show people what the options are, the functionality, and the ability to really scale your brand online.
Okay, great. And that is a major focus of ours with you today, and we're excited to get into that. Before we turn the page to e-commerce, though, tell us a little bit about your background, and then ultimately how you got to where you are now with AccelPay, and like all the different experiences you've had.
For sure, yeah, it's been a little bit of a winding road for me. So I went to school for entertainment management. I wanted to be Ari Gold from the show Entourage.
Nice.
We found out that you do need a law degree to be an agent of sorts, and not really the path that I wanted to go down. So out of school, I did the whole music thing for about a year, and then realized that I need a 401k. I need to start planning for my future. So then I went into telecom, selling WebEx, Zoom conferencing, all that fun stuff before the pandemic. So it was kind of unique to see an industry change right in front of my eyes, where Zoom is now what we're on. I mean, it was pretty interesting, but not really where my passion lied. I wanted to get into something a little bit more hands-on and fun and marketing focused. So I jumped over to Coca-Cola for a little bit, got my feet wet as almost like an order taker for a distributor. So that was my first foray into beverage, but had the opportunity to meet Sean Roach over at Greenhouse Agency, who took a chance on me. He moved me out to Southern California from Boston, and part of a really cool project called Bar Army, where I went to 4 different cities and found influential bartenders within these cities at top accounts, pulled them into basically a focus group to start thinking about cocktail creation and having these guys potentially explain the brand to a customer at the point of sale. So if somebody asked for a whiskey, they'd be able to speak intelligently about the brand itself. Really cool program, grassroots marketing, and it was honestly a dream job. But after that program came to its conclusion, I worked for another side of their business, which was a tasting agency. So moved out to South Carolina, handled about 300 on and off premise promotional specialists. A lot of fun, a lot of work, dealing with part-time promotional specialists and the challenges of cars not starting and the
Yeah.
rigmarole there. But through that, I became pretty friendly with a few distributors in town, and then leveraged that experience from the Bar Army program and the tasting agency to jump onto the supplier side of things. So
Okay.
jumped onto a brand called 6 Degree Tequila, and then I went over to Owl's Brew Boozy Tea, where I managed the Southeast for that supplier, getting menu placements and doing all the events. And then wanted to really combine all of my experience, technology through telecom and web conferencing, the marketing I had from Greenhouse Agency, and then the supplier background that I had, and saw that there was a really cool opportunity within e-commerce. It was a unique space that a lot of folks weren't comfortable exploring just yet. And this was right around the pandemic. So a lot of
Uh-huh.
these brands, they didn't have the ability to sell products on premise or off premise for that point. So e-commerce was really an option to keep their brand afloat, generate sales, generate brand awareness, and get product delivered directly to their customer's doorstep.
All right. Well, that sounds great. So since the pandemic on, your focus has really been within e-commerce. And so talk to us about, even just from the pandemic to now, what sort of changes have you had to adapt to?
So during the pandemic, like I said, a lot of these brands were relying on e-commerce to keep the doors open. You saw folks make the shift from creating a whiskey or a vodka to creating hand sanitizer just to keep their business afloat. And e-commerce was a perfect opportunity for those brands to market themselves not only with the hand sanitizer, but their brand as well. Again,
Okay.
keeping the flow of liquid to lips and getting product out there in the market. So e-commerce really exploded during that time, but since we're a couple of years removed from the pandemic, the e-commerce space is really starting to normalize, and we're seeing a lot of mom and pop shops open up, leveraging retailers to get product out to end consumers. And we're also finding that brands are launching on e-commerce. Like, let's say you're a brand in the UK and you want to break into the US. Great. An easy way to do that is to start on e-commerce, figure out who's actually buying your product, figure out what hot spots in the country you're having success in, and then using that to maybe go hire some boots on the ground or go talk to a distributor to get placement and on those trucks. So a
Mhm.
lot of these brands are really starting to use that data to make some strategic decisions on hires, bandwidth, marketing strategy, and there's quite a few brands that are really successful at it. There's a few that are bringing in a couple $1 million per year just on this channel. And then there's the mom and pop shops that are just getting their feet wet, launching their brands, and starting to move a couple cases at a time, which is fantastic.
Okay, and so kind of a broad question for you. Within e-commerce, a lot of we'll just take a lot of businesses, a lot of brands, even outside of consumer brands and alcohol. They look at things like e-commerce, digital marketing, and they'll say like, well, it's all an experimentation until you kind of really find out where you stand. It sounds like with your experience, are you able to kind of bridge that gap and say, hey, work with me, there'll be less burn rate. Talk to us about maybe some of the assurances that you might have.
For sure. Well, so let me ask you a question. What's your favorite brand? Alcohol brand.
Oh, alcohol brand, boy. I would have to say probably Basil. No, 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 no. It's not. I was going to say Basil Hayden, but it's actually what's the whiskey brand with horses on it?
Horse soldier.
No, it's oh gosh. I can't think of the name. So let's go back to Basil. Basil Hayden is a favorite band of mine.
Okay, great. Fantastic juice. It's in stores everywhere. It's a national brand. I think they're international actually.
Yeah,
But how many times have you been to their website?
probably three times.
And even that is shocking. Let's use Maker's Mark for instance. I mean, great brand. My mom used to drink it, and
Yeah.
I, it's just great juice all around. But I have never been to their website.
Hmm.
So setting up an e-commerce store, we can do it. I mean, there's plenty of folks that can. AccelPay, we're one of the leaders in this space at the moment, but all these mom and pop shops or all these e-commerce shops, they can set you up on e-commerce and you have that shopping functionality. But the only way that you're actually going to make conversions and drive folks to make a purchase is through digital advertising. That's the biggest misstep we'll see a lot of brands will make. And I will constantly say, hey, well, I'll take your money and I'll set you up a shop. But unless you're going to be driving traffic to that site via digital marketing or email marketing or even SMS, you're not going to have many folks go to the site. And the goal is to sell bottles. They're not going to purchase bottles if they're not visiting your site.
Okay.
So having a healthy digital marketing budget, leveraging tools like the Meta Universe, Facebook, and Instagram. Some folks have even gone into Snapchat or Pinterest, but email marketing is going to be an absolute driver to get folks to your site. And there's a couple different tactics that these brands can use to continue to drive traffic there. It could be through innovation. It could be through limited time offers. It could be through value-added packaging with some unique merchandise. Could be cross promotion with other brands, co-packing opportunities. There's a lot that you can do online that you might not be able to experiment with when you're strictly focusing on brick and mortar.
Hmm. Okay, very interesting. And then within all of that, I do want to cover because when you and I got together, to kind of set up this interview, I had some notes on this. So talk to us about like compliance, any sort of maybe old archaic laws, state to state. How does that coincide with your efforts to sell a brand online?
So compliance is always kind of the big elephant in the room when you start talking about e-commerce. The model that most brands will choose to leverage is called an agency model, where we're essentially having a customer purchase product from a licensed retailer, and then they're using a direct-to-consumer provider to transport that product to themselves in their home state. That's 99% of the e-commerce business models that you'll see out there in the ether.
Hmm.
What for the other major brands like maybe a Brown-Forman or a Proximo, they don't want to be shipping across state lines. So there are instances, and AccelPay is one of those companies that has the ability. We have a retail network where we could allow brands to sell product through the three-tier system, let's say within Florida. Product goes through a distributor, lands at a retailer, and if a customer in Florida orders that product, it's going to be all shipping within the three-tier system compliantly.
Okay. And then I've talked about this with numerous people in previous episodes, and whiskey always seems to dovetail around this. Are there any kind of funky prohibition laws or just outdated laws that kind of get in the way?
There are so many outdated laws in each one of these states, and that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of delay. So nothing is
Mhm.
going to come down on the federal level. The states have full control as to how they want to handle e-commerce and direct to consumer, but there's also a delay in these folks changing the laws. Like I know in Colorado, for registration, they want it to be sent via fax. I don't remember the last time I saw a fax machine. So
Yeah.
I,
Wow.
it would be ideal for these folks to start changing the laws in favor of the brands, so brands
Yeah.
could continue to do direct to consumer. Um, but I just don't see it happening anytime soon. It might take somebody like an Amazon to come in and say they want to enter the space, and then the laws might start to change with their big lobbying group. But at the same
Uh-huh.
time, the number one lobbying group in the US, if I'm not mistaken, are the alcohol distributors. They want to keep these laws as is because they want to make sure that they're getting their cut through the three-tier system. Everything is going
Uh,
taxed along the way. And these distributors are sometimes helping brands build with their sales teams, feet on the street, getting menu placements and getting product landed on the shelf. But a lot of times it's really up to the brands to do their own marketing initiatives, hire brand ambassadors within a state, which can be very time consuming, can be very expensive. So e-commerce really comes back to putting the onus on the brand to use digital marketing to get their brand voice out there, create some unique content where you're educating the customer rather than using your label and bottle on a shelf where great, you might stand out with some unique packaging, but the customer might not know who you are. So
yeah.
if you can create some unique content, lifestyle imagery, video, maybe doing some live tastings online or over Zoom, that's really going to educate the end consumer as to why they should make a purchase. Maybe you have some unique attributes like you're female owned and you're focusing on sustainability. Those people that walk into a liquor store, they're not going to see that from the bottle and label. So it's really a great opportunity for your store to get out there and for folks to try something new that they might not have had the opportunity to in a traditional liquor store.
Okay, interesting. And so let's stay within some of those things you mentioned. Um, Talk to us about any tactics or tools you're using. Like any sort of like influencer. Let's maybe kind of dive into that subject.
For sure. Um, to really simplify the buying process, a lot of folks are using Shopify. Shopify's king across any vertical. It's a great e-commerce tool, and it provides you the opportunity to download different apps just like you can on your phone. I know with AccelPay, we simply allow the brands to download an app that will live on top of their site, so we're not linking out to any other marketplaces or maybe not a shop dot, and that will really help with conversion rate. So let's say that you spent, I don't know, $5,000 a month on digital marketing. You have a customer that's scrolling on Instagram, they see your ad, they're interested. Maybe you've enticed them with a unique story. So then they're going to land on your website. So that's two different tabs or apps that were opened on your phone. And then if you have the ability to have the customer convert right on your website, your conversion rates are going to go a whole lot higher rather than if they open up another window, which might link out to a marketplace or maybe to a shop dot and then whatever your domain name is. So that's number one. Over 75% of sales in our space are done on a mobile device. So you want to make sure that your site is optimized. You're putting maybe discounts and you're making sure that the path to purchase is as simple as it can be, especially if you're on a mobile device. You don't have that much real estate. You don't want them to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to find your buy now button. You want to have that front and center. So
Yeah.
optimizing your site, Shopify is a great resource. And then it kind of goes back to digital marketing, really creating a story, getting your imagery in front of the right people, and then maybe enticing them with tools like value-added packaging. Maybe add some merchandise with a hat or a t-shirt, or maybe a signed guitar from Nick Jonas. I mean, the world is your oyster on
Yeah.
e-commerce if the retailers are willing to fulfill some of that those merchandising pieces. And then you have the ability for cross promotion as well. So let's say that you partnered with a bidders company. Perfect. You have the opportunity to advertise to their audience. They have the opportunity to advertise to your audience. And you've created basically a cocktail kit at that point, which will create an envy buying situation where John Smith in Florida, he loves this brand, he loves the product. He bought the cocktail kit, but his friend in Texas might not even have that product landed within his state. He has no option to purchase the product. And now he got something unique that his buddy in Florida was able to show off, maybe through an Instagram post, which is great, which kind of goes back into the influencer marketing. So influencer campaigns can be very what's the word here? They can be pretty substantial. So I know Kim Kardashian, with all of her followers, I think she charges like $500,000 for one post. Get you a lot of traction. I know of a brand that went viral on TikTok because they have some unique additives to their vodka, and it was shown by this influencer, and then it just went viral. And then they reached out to me last week and said, hey, our traditional advertising didn't work, but because we used an influencer, we saw a massive influx of sales coming in, and we couldn't even keep up with the orders. They didn't have product to actually put into these retailers. So they sped up their production, and now they're smooth sailing at this point.
Wow.
A couple other tactics that you can use: SMS marketing. That's a great way to connect with your folks or your customers on a little bit more of a personal level. Emails might go overlooked, but if you're reaching somebody on their device through a text, they might think it's from their friend, but it's actually from a brand who's inviting them to join maybe a whiskey club, or maybe it's a limited release. So again, optimizing those that the path to conversion for the end consumer is monumental. And then on the back end, brands have the ability to see who is purchasing their product. This is where, when folks are interested in e-commerce and kind of are on the fence about it, I say, hey, look, it's going to be like hiring a new sales guy. Your sales guy is probably going to have reach regionally. I did it in 5 states with a beer company, but even that was a stretch. I'd have to get on a flight. I'd have to be in one state one day and in another state the next. But with e-commerce, you have the ability to reach a massive audience and a good majority of the country just on a mobile device. So when the sales data starts coming in, again, going back to finding out where the hotspots in the country are, maybe figuring out your demographic is XYZ versus what you thought it was initially, that's start making an impact into where you spend your money and your bandwidth. Maybe you're killing it in Florida with a particular demographic. Great, let's go sponsor a concert or sponsor an event that's going to cater to that audience, rather than, hey, we want it to be 21 to 35 female. You'll quickly find out that that might not be your demographic. So let's cater to the folks that are actually purchasing your product. And then from a sales guy's perspective, you can find out which retailers are purchasing your product, what zip codes are having most success. So as a sales guy, having that data, I'm going to want to go into those markets and hit every account that doesn't already have our product on the shelf, show them the sales data from e-commerce, and then I've made a case as to why I should be on the shelf, rather than walk in and say, hey, I have the best juice you've ever tasted. Try it. Do you like it? Will you buy it? That's kind of how things were done years ago. But now if you have this sales data, you can literally present, this SKU is performing during these months. Here's the velocity that we're churning for this particular flavor profile. Here's the seasonality. Here's the demographic. This is why I should be on your shelf. And then you could even leverage that in your wholesaler conversations. If you're looking to pick up another distributor or wholesaler in another state, show them the same sales data. It's going to go a lot further than, here's my brand story, here's our funding, here's what we plan to do from a sales execution perspective. If you give them that data, it's going to go a lot further than the conversations that have happened in the past.
Yeah, wow. That's really interesting, just tying it up with all that data, almost creating market opportunities for yourself. So that's amazing. So let's get into maybe like a case study or two. Can you highlight, I'm seeing a list of some brands here that you've worked with. whether it be Whistle Pig or Horse Soldier, maybe or something else like share with us a case study or two.
For sure. So WhistlePig is really always a great beacon of success. Those guys are fantastic at innovation. They have a great digital marketing team behind them. They're constantly pushing out their product and LTOs and VAPs for the holiday season. Pinhook does a really great job with SMS marketing, which I don't think you're going to see too often in the industry. I think folks are going to start catching on to that.
Mhm.
But what it kind of all comes back to is creating that envy buying situation where Horse Soldier does a great job with their merchandise. They've optimized their website. They created really nice content that's pleasing to the eye. And then instead of just buying a bottle of whiskey, well, now you have the ability to add on a hat or a t-shirt and make it a gifting opportunity, maybe for Father's Day. Maybe throw in some golf balls there because it's a Father's Day pack that you want your dad to enjoy on the golf course. AU Vodka, great example of a brand that's leveraging e-commerce to break into a new country where they're absolutely killing it in the UK, but they wanted to break into the US where it's a much larger market. And the way they did that was through e-commerce. So they started leveraging the digital marketing strategies that they've replicated in the UK. They've used that sales data and then again took it to chains, took it to wholesalers, and you're going to see those guys expand very, very quickly across the country using that data, and then having the ability to figure out who your demographic is going to be. So their demographic in the UK is going to be completely different than their demographic here in the US. So having the sales data come in, being able to analyze that, figure out who exactly is buying your product, and then continuously to hit them with advertisement. I think it takes about 7 impressions for somebody to actually go onto the site, click through, make the purchase. So it really all comes back to digital advertising, and the brands that are spending the time, the bandwidth, and the funds on digital advertising are going to be the most successful.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then let's get an understanding for like any partnerships or collaborations you've put together that have been impactful for you.
Absolutely. So we touched on the distribution tier, and I'm not gonna talk trash on any of the major distributors out there. I've worked with a whole bunch, and those guys are hardworking and they have built brands.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of other options out there, especially for brands that do want to take the e-commerce path. Companies like Park Street, like LibDib, Amroth, American Spirits Exchange. These distributors or wholesalers, they don't have boots on the ground. They don't have folks out there in the market selling your product to brick and mortar liquor stores or trying to get menu placements. They're essentially a pass through. So you will still utilize a distributor in particular states, i.e., those companies, to then sell to a retailer who's eventually going to be the one selling the product to the end consumer. So when somebody comes to me with a great idea of, hey, my uncle is this famous celebrity, I want to build a brand around him, it's going to be a whiskey, fantastic. I want to jump on e-commerce because I see the value there, but you still need to leverage these wholesalers to get the product compliantly through the 3-tier system and then out to the end consumer. And these companies will usually take a lower than traditional margin because they're not paying for sales teams. So it's a little bit more financially responsible for the brands to look into those routes to market. And then leveraging different agencies. Mushroom Media is a fantastic agency that I've had the pleasure of working with over the last couple months.
Hmm.
Those guys can white glove a digital marketing campaign based on your budgets, making sure that your influencer programs are set up and within the right demographic. Email marketing is going to be king. And then obviously display ads, Meta Universe, Snapchat, TikTok in some cases. Who else is out there? Tasting agencies. So again, using the data that you're going to get from your e-commerce shop to figure out what spots within the country are performing best, well, leverage a tasting agency to really put liquid to lips. E-commerce is a great liquid to lips opportunity to get product into states and to customers that don't have your product sitting on a shelf in a liquor store. So use that as a marketing opportunity. Maybe lower your MSRP a little bit to entice them to purchase. And then once you have enough data to then break into that market, leverage a tasting agency to kind of drive the message home when you're in a liquor store.
Yeah, very good, very good. Well, we've been learning all things e-com and digital marketing for the alcohol space with Brandon Crockett. And he's a senior sales executive with AccelPay. Been a really great conversation here on Sipping Success here with you, Brandon. And sadly, we're getting down to our last couple questions. So first up, want to get your advice on something kind of broad. So like, let's say you're talking to your younger self or just somebody younger in the industry and you're looking to break in. What sort of advice would you give to that person?
Just be relentless. That's what it all comes down to. I think earlier in my career, I didn't have the confidence to approach folks that maybe owned agencies or owned brands. But if you do have the confidence and you take a chance on yourself and reach out and say, "Hey, I'm looking to break into the industry. I'd love to start as a brand ambassador, or maybe I'll start doing some tastings just to show your work ethic and what you can accomplish." That's going to open up a lot of doors. Don't take no for an answer. If somebody turns you down for a job, great. Go on to the next brand. There's thousands of brands to look into. All have unique stories. All might be a better fit. Maybe different locations within the country that might be more suitable to your current situation. But be relentless. Don't take no. And obviously use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a tool that we were taught in college that was going to be a great resource. And I'm sure everybody sitting in a college classroom is saying, yeah, whatever. It's just another Facebook. But it's really been a great tool to connect with folks, especially as most of us are working remote at this point. So great way to connect with people without actually going into an office. And you'll be surprised how receptive folks are into either taking on a mentor or just giving somebody a chance.
Yeah.
But take that first job and just knock it out of the park, and then you can always level up from there.
Yeah. Very well put. And last question, kind of a couple parts for you. How would people interact with you online? Do you have any socials, any websites that you want to mention? And then the last part of, like, if anybody has a question for you and wanted to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn, like I just went on a little spiel, Brandon Crockett.
Yeah.
You'll see that my history matches up with everything I spoke to here. So there's a couple of us out there. I'm not a big football player, so you might see a couple of replicates.
Okay.
My email is Brandon Crockett at accelpay.io. And then check out AccelPay. Check out the website. We offer something a little bit more unique than some of the other direct-to-consumer platforms out there. Things like DoorDash integration, things like international shipping. Like we're really starting to innovate in this space. And when I talk to my customers on more of a consultant perspective, the company in the e-commerce space that is willing to innovate, to try, to build, to break, which AccelPay is willing to do and has the bandwidth to do, those guys are going to come out on top, because this industry has been kind of stuck in its ways for the last, 100 years. And e-commerce is really a great way to show some of those new innovations.
Yeah, very well put. And very interesting conversation here with you, Brandon. Thanks for joining us. We will, for all those, we'll put in the show notes at the bottom, we'll put Brandon's LinkedIn address. And so, again, Brandon, want to thank you for joining us. It's been a great episode of Sipping Success. Thank you all, the listeners, for joining us as well. So until next time, I'm your host, Casey Haakinson, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
And that's a wrap on another insightful episode of Sipping Success, brought to you by Mushroom Media. We hope our discussions have left you thirsting for more knowledge in the world of beverages and alcohol. Stay connected with us on social media for updates. And remember, the journey to success is best enjoyed one sip at a time. Keep exploring trends, connecting with leaders, and scaling your brand. Until our glasses meet again, cheers to your continued success. And may your cups always runneth over with inspiration. We'll catch you in the next episode.